Hi, everybody. We're on week 3, and this week we're doing restorative justice programs, gender and recidivism. And we're going to be looking at, I think that one of the very lucky things is Massachusetts has been way ahead of the curveball on this and has really, really worked hard on this. Some of you are not from Massachusetts, so you might want to look at what Massachusetts has for programs because they've been really, really great. We've had the drug programs, we've had the juvenile justice programs, and the restorative justice really encompasses the people that really matter in it, the victim and the offender. So when we look at these models, when we look at restorative justice, we have to look at punitive justice because that's the traditional. It's where crime is considered an act against the state. It's also the threat of punishment, and punishment itself deter crime and change behavior. But when we look at that, do we really think that somebody thinks about the punishment when they do something impulsively, when they act very quickly and they go out there and not even, it's just impulsively they do it. And I look at kids do things impulsively all the time. But by the grace of God, all of us, got to the age we are because it's part of growing up. You do stupid things. Some people grow up later in life as well. Punishment and the punitive justice side is the way to hold an offender accountable. But who is punished? So let's take that offender. That offender is punished. They're put in jail. Some people want them to be put in jail to sit and rot, but reality is they're coming out of jail. Very few people stay in jail, so they're coming out of jail. Who do I want as my neighbor? Somebody has a pathway into a job, someone who's been taught a pathway, someone who's been dealt with their mental health issues or dealt with their, domestic violence issues, or someone who's dealt with all of the issues that brought them to this point, because we're finding that a lot of our victims become offenders. When you look at the vast majority of runaways who have been sexual abuse victims, and then up until recently, you would go out and arrest them for being a runaway. What are we telling them? The other thing we have is it lies on establishing blame or guilt. So, okay, that's great. You're at fault. What does that do for the rest of us in society? And the community is peripheral to the process. I mean, they're out on the outside. They're the ones that are saying, we want this done. But reality is, they're also going to be those same people that are going to be there when the person gets out of jail and becomes their neighbor. When we look at punitive justice, it does nothing to, it doesn't encourage repentance. It doesn't encourage them to say, I really messed up here. I want to move forward. It doesn't do anything to encourage them to become a better person. I always say you have to ask 3 questions. What laws have been broken? Who did it? What did they get as a punishment? What did they get as a punishment? Um, you know what? Uh, it goes back to that when you're raising a child. I've had so many people that I've had to talk about. If it has to do with abuse of kids. Where does the fine line? Do you get to abuse your kids by spanking them, or is that your job as a parent? Well, if you're spanking like a 13-year-old kid, is that a little bit more than punishment than that they're going to get anything out of? So you have to ask yourself, even though I digress in that, I kind of look at them in the same way. If you are using spanking at 13, you've already lost that battle and you need to try something new. Now, restorative justice, as you can tell, is something that I truly, my heart and soul is in. I believe in it. My community is doing it. My courts are doing it. And it's really exciting for me because it addresses what the underlying causes are. What is the reason this woman has, look at the crimes that they're doing. They're doing larcenies. Why did she steal this? Why did why does she have drugs on her? What is the reason behind it? So crime is considered an act against another individual and the community on restorative justice. Punishment alone is not effective. In fact, it can be harmful to both the individual and the community. This is very true. What good will this punishment do to the victim? What punishment will it do to the community? And their accountability occurs when they have to assume responsibility. If they understand what they've done, they can move forward. One of the most important parts of this is victims play a pivotal role in the justice process. Victims have control here, and I always feel that we need to give our victims more control. Sorry about my son's dogs, they are loud. And focus less on problem solving. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle the drug issue? If they have a drug issue, if they come out, they're still going to have a drug issue. And the community helps, facilitates in this process. Now, I can tell you, I worked in community corrections for a long time. And in community corrections, we had Department of Children and Family involved. We had Department of Youth Services involved. We had the Hampden County Jail involved. We had parole officers and probation officers all involved. We had the schools involved. We had everybody involved. Everybody that was involved with that person, whether they be an adult or a child, would all be working together to make that person a better person for society and to make that victim feel whole again. And I think that is really, the community has to be behind it. The community has to push that. If we also look at the other big part of that is when someone goes to jail for a minor drug offense or goes to jail for something that is, it follows them. It follows them on the punitive justice system. On the restorative justice system, it stops. It stops before they get a permanent record. And that's really important because there are so many jobs out there you can't get with a permanent record. When people say, well, my juvenile record was sealed or my adult record, it was not continued without a finding. Well, the reality of that is people still have access to that. That's still there on your file. And I don't think most people realize that. So we need to look at encouraging encouragement for repentance and forgiveness, and to move forward. Otherwise, when we put them in jail or when we put them in lockup, we put them in probation, whatever, we're really doing nothing for society. So ask yourself 3 questions: Who has been harmed? What are the needs? And who has the obligation to repair the harm been done? Did they repair what they needed to repair? It really takes 2 people into account there, the person who did it and the person who was victimized by it. So I want you to look at this when you look at the restorative justice programs and say to yourself, what is everybody doing with them and how great are they doing? Now, for those of you who are taxpayers, I want you to know restorative justice is a lot cheaper. And keeping that in mind, that's where you're going to be able to get some people to get on board with that, because it comes down to the mighty dollar for some people. For me, it's about what's best for society. And I'm hoping you all agree with that. But if you don't, I would love to hear you tell me why somebody should go to jail and why they should get no help. And I think it would make a great discussion. And I've had that discussion with people before. I just feel that we need to do what's for the greater good. So, on that, your paper has to be 4 to 5 pages long, 4 to 5 pages. And remember, in your 4 to 5 pages, the first page, which is your cover sheet, does not count, and your source sheet does not count. I'm going to send you another piece of work that I found that I really liked a lot, and I hope you like it. I know you got a lot given to you. So if you have any questions, again, you can always call me at 413-883-3537. Life happens. This video is late this week because my computer crashed, and I've been working on this for the last 2 days trying to get it to work. So I get that life happens. If your paper is not going to be in on time and it's a legitimate reason, please let me know, and I can help you with that. I can work with you on that. Make sure you get your discussion in, though. Again, 413-883-3537. I hope you all have a healthy and safe week.